Alright guys, so Egne here again. We're going to be getting into another video about tactics and leadership and different things you should have your team doing and not doing while you are on the battlefield fighting and such. So we will get right into it. Alright guys, so like I said in the intro, we're going to be going into more tactics and leadership things to do while on Baron's Island. I do have some fight video in the background for your guys' entertainment so you can see kind of what I'm talking about as we're going. But before we get into that, got to get into the usual shenanigans. This video is sponsored by UPTO, where using my code EGNIG3 can give you anywhere from 5 to 65% off all in-game purchases. That code will be changing on the 15th. Please join the Discord, which will also be down in the description below, to be able to get the new code before I put out another video. On top of that, in the Discord, we'll be telling you when various events are and such, so that way you can take even more advantage to the extra Aptoid discounts on various days. A full description of how to take advantage of this discount and such will be down in the description down below. Also, there is still a large portion of you guys that are not subscribed. It really helps content creators like myself. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and that way we can keep putting out material for you. So please, doesn't cost you anything. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave a comment. If you don't like the video or whatever, tell me so I can try to make different content. All right, so we'll get into it. So obviously we're in Barrens. And one of the first things, honestly, from the leadership side is you typically don't want to push too hard into the area that is debuffed for you. So for us, we're red camp. So actually the northern clash area, we are debuffed. But we just decided to have some fun anyway. It kind of, you, as a leadership or as a team with the three alliances, you really want to try to keep everybody grouped as close together, especially when you're pushing into an area where you are debuffed. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of mishaps in our lineup, so that didn't really happen, which we paid the price for. But that's one of the most important things as far as from the leadership side of things. The next thing, which I am seeing a lot of in this particular island, is there's so many hill hits. Hill hits does nothing but just waste your stamina when you are trying to be objective, when you're trying to push from point A to point B. The only thing you're doing is wasting your stamina, possibly a little bit of fungi, whatever, to be hill hitting. You should keep your team objective to where we are trying to take this tower down. Let's go. Which leads into the next point, which I saw it got better later on, but you never really want to solo a tower. It's best to set rolling rallies so that way basically you got 2 to 3 rallies that are going in at one time, and then a minute later you got 2 to 3 more that are already set that are ready to go. That way, if they take it back, it keeps you in control with 15 plus people in there at all times. So I did see and notice that got a lot better towards the end of the fight, but I still saw a lot of hill hitting. Thankfully, my team didn't. They know better. But that's just a general thing I would suggest, is try to make sure that your team does not hill hit and is focused on rallying different objectives. All right, and then going into the next thing is you really want to try to make sure that your team has at least 40k on it. Reason being is because that is the first baseline to where you get increased fungi. And 40k honor is pretty easy to be able to reach. And doing so allows your team as a whole to be able to fight longer, stay in the battle longer, etc., etc. The next suggestion that I would have is to be able to limit your stam use. Typically, what I do is I have a stronger account. Not everybody does, but what I do is I use only Pro and Unit 1 when fighting. When my stamina gets down to 50 on any of those, I'll switch them down and I'll start only using my Pro after the first couple hits. That way I have stamina that is rejuvenating on the other marches. Usually not a good idea to use more than 2 marches. I obviously in the background you could see that I did, but that was because we were trying to build, we were destroying at the same time, and we had a lot of split focus. So I was basically trying to make the timer go down as fast as possible. We were also taking on 2 at once, so in those kind of situations, you kind of have to split your focus extremely more. Another thing is you definitely want to have your strongest hitters, or as we call them, primary rally leads, be up front and closest to where the conflict is. It's kind of an obvious situation as to why, but because they are the strongest, they hit the hardest, you want them to have the least amount of march time back so that they can set another rally and everybody fills. So that's just another general tip. A lot of times what we tell people, especially in the beginning when we're first fighting, if you're not a rally leader, if you're just a filler, to port jump, meaning port back to home area and then port back. So that way your marches are coming back a little faster, because it does take everybody to be able to fight and be able to win against multiple enemies. In the video that I'm showing, we didn't have a lot of people, unfortunately. It was kind of midday when people were at work, starting their commute home from work, etc., etc. But with the right tactics, even a small handful of people can do a lot of damage. We actually were all the way up by the Wonder and the Northern Clash, and then eventually, as our fungi started running out, our teammates started running out. One of our teammates, they actually were holding them off for almost 2 days before we got there due to the mistake that I spoke of earlier. So, going in with 2 alliances against 3, kind of rough. Then we had 1 alliance that was kind of behind us, so it was really a 1 versus 3 for most of that day until our allies got there, which is why I'm saying it's very important that you try to stick your teams together, because even though you might be the strongest team, if you can easily and quickly be overwhelmed when you have 3 people surrounding you or 3 alliances surrounding you. So again, definitely want to stick together to be able to make your pushes, and while you're fighting, makes it a hell of a lot more successful chance for you. So as you can see, we always are rallying. As soon as we actually occupy, what I do is I often look at, see if there's any incoming rallies to see if I should wait, and then tell people to go and fill. Because if they just started the rally and, say they got a minute and a half to go in, that's a minute and a half more time that we can get off of that tower if we just have people fill, rather than waiting to set rallies, which does happen quite often. So it's really a balance between knowing when to wait and when to just ascend, or if you're rolling rallies, they don't knock as many people out, you're rolling rallies, end up filling it up, knowing when to set and when to just go ahead and fill. So you can see I was giving commands and such with that, as they were knocking a few people out, checking how many people were in there, etc., etc. But yeah, honestly, the most important thing too is to be able to have your team up. I mentioned this before. You want everybody to get to a minimum of 40k honor. So the best way to do that is, honestly, if you're above 40k honor and people need tiles still to be able to reach that 40k honor, give up some of your tiles, especially if you are not using a certain class type. Like for me, even though I have a carrier march, I don't really use my carriers. So I haven't grabbed any carrier tiles whatsoever. So yeah, definitely if you're not using that specific troop type, give them up so that other people would be able to go ahead and get the honor that they need. As far as building division between the three teams, what we usually do is whoever is taking the wonder, the other two teams go and take all the residences. That way each team has the ability to be able to collect tiles, have port rights, especially important when it comes to fighting, because if you have all the residences, you can block with hills. There's a lot of different tactics that you can do to really slow down their progression to be able to come and fight you. You can also even completely trap other enemies away from being able to come close. So yeah, it's very important that all three of your teams have port rights in various areas and such. So that way, at any given time, you can be there to block, annoy, make them use more clay, can't have the perfect tower placement, et cetera, et cetera, just to be able to slow them down. They actually used this tactic against us in this fight, which was really good to see, because it is a great tactic to do. As far as who takes what buildings, that is kind of minimal. Obviously, whoever the weakest of your group, you want them to have the maximum amount of buffs that they can. But at the same time, every alliance that's in the team does get portion of those buffs from each and every building that your island group takes. So that part is not really as much concern, but like I said, with the ability of having port rates and such, it is rather important that each part of your team does have port rights, whether it be for going getting nodes, blocking hills, anything in each of those areas. Because if one team starts losing, then it makes it a lot harder. And as we progress into the island, probably next week, I'll be showing some other different tactics as far as fighting when you have your allies like you do, with forcing your enemies into like choke points to where at any given time you're only fighting one of them. They have no way around it. There is different tactics in which we will be getting into a later video, when I can actually show how that would be set up and looking. But all right, guys, I don't really have much more for you on this one. I'm gonna let the video go ahead and play out in the background. So I know people keep asking for more fight videos, so here's one of them for you. And we'll see you in the next one. If you like this content, like I said, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really does help us out. And we will see you in the next one. Agnes out.